Well, why don't we get going, everybody? It's 8 o'clock for me, 5 o'clock for everybody over on the East Coast, or West Coast, rather. My name is William, and I want to thank everybody for attending this afternoon's webinar, Why Teach Young People About Leadership? Once again, I'm William. I'm a program coordinator at Harmony Plus. This is my second time hosting webinars, so I hope I can start to get the hang of it more. And I'm really excited to be doing this evening's webinar with a guy that I've had the privilege of being able to communicate and work with quite a bit over the past few weeks as we've been working to develop a really exciting program here at Harmony Plus called Future Leader Academy, which we'll talk about a lot more a little later on. And that is our guest speaker, Matthew Brown, PhD, former University of Michigan Ross School of Business, and also William Davidson Institute faculty associate. Before we kick into it with him, I do want to give you guys some background. I see in our attendees some familiar names, some familiar faces. And so to those people, I do want to say thank you. It really does mean a lot to all of us at Harmony Plus that you continue to come and be part of these with us. That's why we keep putting them on. But for those new people, we are going to give you the Harmony Plus spiel. Apologize to those who've heard this already before, but you know. Harmony Plus is the official partner of several leading universities and institutions in the United States. That includes, of course, UC Berkeley. We've worked with their Haas School of Business quite a lot. SRI International, that's a research institute that was founded by Stanford trustees during, around the middle of the 20th century. San Jose State University, we work with them quite a bit, get a lot of our interns from them. And our goal is to provide top-notch programs to outstanding local students, as well as a lot of international students as well. We work with a huge population group. And so obviously in 2020, this idea of hybrid learning has been really huge for obvious reasons, but it's actually something that Harmony Plus has stuck to for quite some time. And so we seek to combine many different aspects of learning into a very neat and easily accessible, tangible package. And so we combine education, like solid learning, lessons, reinforcement classes, foundational work, with services like future planning and other sort of academic enrichment services. And we have online programs, offline programs. Like everybody in 2020, we lean more on online, but of course, as we get back into the swing of things, our offline will have a resurgence as well. We have synchronous and async classes and programming. We combine theory and practice. And so we also, our programs all use guidance from top teachers, really qualified folks like Professor Matthew, and we have endorsements from a lot of leading universities. I mentioned UC Berkeley and Stanford earlier. And we also help students build a competitive advantage and just continue to enjoy continuous improvement, which just ties into our central idea of upgrade education, right, is what we're always going for. And so here are some places that students who have participated in our programs have been admitted to, some pretty big names here. And of course, one that of course our guests will recognize tonight, U Michigan, but of course, who wouldn't know these names here? So why don't we keep on going? I will say a little bit about our professor, Matthew Brown. So he's got 25 years of teaching and consulting experience. And actually prior to that, he worked at Outward Bound for 12 years as an instructor there. If you don't know what Outward Bound is, it's this really cool outdoor leadership school. Matt will talk about it during his presentation, I'm sure. And he is a PhD in organizational behavior from Ross School of Business, as I mentioned. He's done a lot of amazing coaching work for some executives and teams in the University of Colorado, NASA Ames, to name a few, Virgin Islands. And he's also been an program associate for University of Michigan, William Davidson Institute, and he's led faculty for Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women Entrepreneurship Program in Kigali, Rwanda. So how are you doing today, Professor Matt?
Wow, that's quite an introduction. I'm doing really well. We had a beautiful autumn day here in Michigan, and yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this new program.
Yeah, nice. I'm for those of you who don't know, I'm actually based in the Northeast. I'm the Harmony Plus's kind of Northeast agent, if you want to call it that. And it's been a very lovely temperate day over here as well. So I'll go through our agenda and then I'm going to start to turn the floor over to you. So basically, as we saw in the title, our presentation is why teach students about leadership today. And, you know, it might seem you might feel like you have an obvious answer to this question, but I think we'll learn that leadership and what it is and what it can look like is an extremely nuanced conversation. And so some of the things that Professor Matt will discuss today include the strange practice of teaching leadership, the sort of myth or the legend, the phantom of leadership gurus, as well as Harmony Plus, how we, and later, we're going to talk a little bit about Future Leader Academy, which is the program you are doing with us beginning in November. And I'll kind of take the reins on that. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit first about yourself and then why we
Sure.
teach young people leadership.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to do this. I'm very pleased to be working with Harmony Plus, and it's an exciting venture so far. And I'm looking forward to doing some really good things. Um, just a little bit about me. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I'm the oldest son, working class family. Never really thought about going to college. I didn't really want to go to college. I wanted to do something adventurous. I got lucky, and I got an international park service working at the Grand Canyon, and then me to Outward Bound. Outward Bound really changed the whole perspective about my life, really gave me confidence, and I quickly became an outdoor mission leader and a wilderness EMT. Did a lot of ski backpacking trips in the Pacific Northwest. And then after I sort of matured and got a little bit more confident about and sort of developed my own vision, I went up to Northern Michigan University. And in exchange for teaching sort of the Outward Bound in the recreation, offered me a chance to go to the university. And then that led to a 14-year odyssey where I finally ended up getting a PhD at the University of Michigan.
All right. So, like he mentioned, he's a very interesting guy who has followed a somewhat non-traditional path. Right, he did not start his academic career until he was in his mid 30s. So I think, especially for young students, he's a really encouraging person to hear from. Someone who still went on to achieve really great things academically, do incredible work in business and consulting, but also did not follow the traditional social clock path. Right, not enrolled in college at 18, a bachelor's degree at 22, so on and so forth. And he's kind of near and dear to my heart because this program he did, Outward Bound, which you heard a little bit about, it's an outdoor education program, and he did it out in Franklin County of Massachusetts. It's a county in our western portion of the state. That's actually where I'm from. It's a very beautiful area. And I think, outdoor leadership influences a great deal of his teaching as well. And I think, it's something that is very important to him, that not only does he have traditional business leadership sense, but also leadership sense in this outdoor model. And so, as it mentions there, he has spent the last 20 years teaching executive education, strategy, leadership, and organizations. He has his own consulting business. He does empirical research on organizational development and change. And we're very lucky. He is considering retirement. He's been at this for some time. And Harmony Plus, we're very lucky to have kind of yanked him before he, pulls the trigger on retirement and have him on board to do this process with us. I think that's a very lucky thing for us. So let's see.
Hi, everybody. This is Bill. This is the founder of Harmony Plus. Before Professor comes back in from his internet, I would like to continue with William as well to add more about him. Yes, it's a great honor to have Professor Matthew Brown. He has actually been working with our co-founder Daniel for many years for company executive educations. That's also the expertise I have in the past. Professor Matthew Brown and I shared a lot of
I'm sorry.
a lot of common opinions about empowering young people together. Even recently, when we had discussions with our dean, S. Wojcicki, we thought it's a very, I should use the present tense, we think it is very important to empower students, empower them, the future leaders. That's why we have Professor Matthew Brown leading the Future Leader Academy. welcome back, Professor Brown.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
That's all right.
Um,
And Bill, thank you
I
for
was
that
gonna,
really good. Sorry, go ahead.
thank you, Bill. Thanks for filling in. I'm getting this message that I have unstable. So if we end up losing, I'm really sorry, but I don't know. My wife is checking out. She said that I've got all green lights, but anyway, this is the problem that we have sometimes with technology.
Okay.
Do you want me to continue or?
Yeah, please
Yes,
go on.
yes, please. Bill gave us a really great segue right now onto sort of leadership and how we define it.
Wonderful. Well, I would say, Bill, stand by because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, okay. We are all
And
here to support. Yeah, that's a part of our
thank you very much.
Mm. Yeah, please go on.
Okay. You know, I wanted to say just like, you know, why teach leadership to young people? Well, I'm thinking that in this day and age, I mean, in some ways, leadership is an umbrella to teach people social sciences. And, you know, we're in an era that where, you know, people think it's really important to understand computer programming, computer science, artificial intelligence, coding. And I think that students really need something in addition to that. They need a well-rounded education. They understand there's a lot of other things to think about than just sort of STEM education. And if they really want to get into some of these top schools, they want to present their children want to present themselves as well-rounded students. So help them really complete that picture in some ways. And so I use the concept of leadership to teach a whole range of different subjects, but it's really preparing them to sort of take a little bit more initiative, a little bit more control of their future. And I really want them to say an interview with a college admissions officer and really, you know, have a confident attitude and a portfolio they can really show that they're really serious and they've really, you know, done some work to round out that education. So this is why, you know, I'm doing this.
So, Professor Matt, I wanted to ask
Sure,
you.
ask the question.
Oh yeah. So I just want to ask, do you feel like nowadays the college application process and the job market, because leadership is such a huge buzzword, do you feel like that whole industry, college applications and applying for jobs, it's kind of distorted the meaning of what leadership really is?
Well, you know, comes a lot from the business schools, and I'm you know, sort of guilty as charged. You know, schools romanticize leadership. We have a lot of stories, a lot of mythology around, you know, celebrities. A lot of, you know, big corporations, you know, send their leaders to our programs. You know, people pack the auditoriums to listen to these people, and you know, I think they have good things to share, but I really don't think that's, you know, that leadership message really doesn't resonate with a lot of young students that are go to college. So yeah, I think there is a little bit of distortion, and we want to really help students, you know, sort of build their own self-efficacy, and that's, I'll get to that a little bit later about how our approach to teaching younger people is really about empowering them, you know, looking at their well-being, how they learn. You know, there's a lot of things that we can help them with that can really, you know, turn the tide for them, you know, and help them get to where they want to go, chart their own journey, you know.
Fantastic. All right. So with that in mind, why don't we move on to the next slide?
You know, teaching leadership, it is a strange practice because there's, you know, when I look at, you know, I have a library, you can see these books and, you know, I mean, there's stacks and stacks of, I read tons of stuff. I probably went over about 200, you know, sources to put this program together. And, you know, you see some patterns, but you also see what goes on in the sort of leadership industry. And, you know, I'll tell you what, it reminds me of the same kind of practice of selling romance novels. Everybody is selling a prescription.
I think that's a typical example that's since the current leader of this country banned Huawei. Otherwise, in this country, we could have a better 5G running, covering different regions.
Seriously. All
Yeah.
right.
So that actually also explains leadership is so important. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so important that for this world, not just this country, to become a better place to live, we actually need better leaders for the future. That's again why we work so hard to empower students to get the world-class professors working together as a team, led by our Dean Esther. We are trying to apply the top university or especially top B school toolkits to empower our students, to help our students to learn the leadership mindset, to learn some skills, to learn the knowledge, to help them to find themselves. Yes, actually, to discover themselves is very important. That's a fundamental. Many kids, they don't really know themselves. Even parents don't really know their kids. So discovering themselves will be a very important step. Later, I encourage our attendees today to ask Professor Brown about how to discover themselves, especially for the kids. And of course, he will again, he's backing again, and he will show the passion why he's so motivated to apply all his knowledge and experiences for younger people. Yes, we do need such mindset and skills to empower young people and create a better future. Yes, Professor, you are back. Yeah, please go
I'm
on.
trying to get my video going. I'm really sorry about this. I don't know why I keep losing the signal.
Oh,
I have,
I just shared with our attendees that because of the terrible leadership of the country leader of today, who banned Huawei, so Huawei's 5G technology it cannot be used in this country. Otherwise, we can have 10 times faster Wi-Fi system or internet. Yeah,
that's
anyway,
true.
please go on. We do need better leaders. Yeah.
It's interesting because we blame leaders. It's sort of interesting because like, the problem, uh, every problem we define in some ways by, it's a leadership problem, and every solution that we come up with is a leadership solution. So it's a strange kind of idea. It's such a big idea. We joke at Michigan that if you couldn't figure out a dissertation topic, you would do your dissertation on some aspect of leadership. I was lucky enough not to do that, but when you think about what goes on, the people who buy books about leadership, are based sort of looking for answers. They're looking for insights from people who have, done things in business, and there's always the sort of emphasis on urgent flexibility, competition, survival, the sustainability, those kinds of things. So they're really compelling eyes. What I want to do is sort of bring that big picture, aspect of leadership with a capital L. I want to bring it down to sort of the context of the everyday student. What's important for young people to learn about is really about how to, thrive under condition uncertainty, help other people, become kind of a servant, be a courageous follower. We all start out as followers. Nobody's born a leader. Those kinds of things are really important. And I think we have a really interesting opportunity, to kind of get students thinking about some of these things, and then really they can author their own story. We'll give them the tools. We'll give them a really sharp MBA level, toolbox off, with some guidance, and we'll have them create their own, their own story, their own portfolio. And that can be really useful. I just put this story up about, Rick Moran, who's a colleague of mine. I don't know him real well, but he was the president of Menlo College. And he was telling me the story about washing our hands. And it's very apropos right now because it turns out that about 40% of the hospitals and medical centers still have a difficult time sort of rising to the compliance standards, hygienic standards. And this is why we have a lot of staph infections and different kinds of problems in hospitals. But out that the technology that sort of led, to improvement in this area was very, very simple technology, just basically signs on the doors of the restroom.
Yeah, I think Professor Brown is talking about the washing hand. This case, this is actually when we are facing problem, how we can define problems and how we can find right solutions to resolve problems. Defining problems is always the first one. About hand washing, actually, there are many case studies in top B schools about this. Let's look at this pandemic at this moment. Great leaders, especially when we are talking about the young leaders, the future leaders, we strongly encourage them to think positively. Every coin has two sides. Pandemic is bad. It is a big challenge to human beings, but without this pandemic, maybe this story from Menlo College will be repeated for thousands of times in the future, and people don't really change. But after this pandemic, I think the good part is most people will form the habit to wash hands quickly. I think great leaders can, especially great future leaders, can view things positively and try to make the future better. I think this is also important. Professor Brown will, in the future, in his workshops, he will train our young future leaders how to set up a positive mindset. Without a positive mindset, you can hardly lead the world to a better place. I even think, maybe after such a leadership academy, in 25 or 30 years in the future, this country will have a lot of great leaders to compete for the presidency. Anyway, Professor Speck, return the microphone to him.
I almost want to just sort of get to the point just in case it happens.
Don't worry,
I really think
everybody to think positively. I also think positively and act positively. If you were not cut off, I didn't have a chance to cover you.
That's great. Yeah. You have to have
an example. The good leaders should stand out.
When you're a young professor and this kind of thing happens to you, a lot of times you'll get really upset, you get really angry, but you realize over time that there's a lot of things you can't control. And technology is I want to say it's fundamentally sort of unreliable. So we're really amazingly lucky that we can sort of talk like this. Everybody, William's on the East Coast, I'm in Michigan, you're in Palo Alto. It's amazing we can do this. But like I said, I really think what it is there's a lot of traffic. It's Saturday night, and I notice in the evenings that the internet, and maybe it's because I have a cheap subscription or something. I have low speed or something like that. But I noticed that we tend to lose our signal in the evening quite a bit. So is there a question I can answer, maybe, William? Or
I think I was just gonna, I don't think we ever fully explained this anecdote that's on this page, but pretty much if you don't mind me taking the lead on it, I'm sure maybe people have read it on the screen already, but it was basically that we found that all these hospitals were very bad when it came to hand washing. Only 40% do it correctly. And the simple and really, like, as you write here, not very romantic or not very sexy solution to this was that they just put signs up that said, don't forget to wash your hands. And I think just the question that I had for you on that one was, does it seem, do you feel like this kind of leadership and the people who came up for it with the whole hand washing example maybe somewhat overlooked because it's not something that's like super flashy and amazing that would like, look good on a grad school essay?
Sure. When you go to, I almost want to tell students if they do get into a business school like Haas or University of Michigan or even Harvard or Yale, they're going to be introduced to people that are corporate CEOs, and they're going to come in and the dean's going to basically praise this person for being such a, Elmer Gantry magic person, and it's really kind of does them a little bit of a disservice. I mean, they're selling something, and part of what they're selling is a little bit of a mythology, but that's where they go to recruit. So there is something to that, but there's a lot of places where you can get a really first-class education, and you can sort of find your way. And I'm all about helping students rise to as high as they want to go. The thing that I tell students right in the beginning is aim high, because wherever you aim, that's where you're going to end up. So I'll help every student I can to get where they want to go. But like I said, I'm not going to sell any kind of romance novels. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this, and it's going to be for the students that are really motivated. They're going to get out of it what they put into it. We're going to give them guidance and the tools and the opportunity, and we're even going to walk it through with them. But they're going to do a lot of work, and they're going to learn a lot of things about themselves. And that's a really important thing. I think learning a lot about yourself when you're a teenager is a really good thing to do. I didn't have a vision when I was growing up in Detroit. I was battling the sort of the riots that were going on in the late 1960s, and some very difficult times for the auto industry, where everybody worked. My father worked for the tank arsenal, but he was a UAW worker, and I remember joining him on the picket lines. And it was a tough time. It was a real tough time. So, this particular period has its challenges, and we want to try to face those challenges. But I also want to tell every student that I don't have to do this. I mean, I'm a college professor, but I really want to do this. I have a lot of energy around this, a lot of passion, and I think this is going to be a really good program. And I'm really looking forward to working with everybody that is invested in doing this.
Awesome. All right. In the interest of time, let's move on to the next portion.
This is just a kind of thing, a sort of an add-on. Just be very sort of, it's sort of like be wary of leadership as a subject. I tell parents, there's a lot of people out there. It's not snake oil, but it's there's a kind of a interesting industry that's developed around it. Anybody could teach leadership. It's like you get your stripe, you get your badge. So you got to be careful. Questionable credentials in the field. Many people are trying to sell you something, whether it's a book or some kind of edutainment. This is not going to be that. This is going to be sort of hard work, very rigorous, but also I want to say customized to the audience, to the students. And we're going to really work with them one-on-one a lot too, as well as teaching them how to collaborate and cooperate in a team environment. There's no barriers to entry in leadership teaching, and it's we're trying to get into the less hype and content and curriculum that's based on sort of the better research. And that's why I've gone over, like I said, 200 plus articles and books and different things. We talked about mindset. I just reach in my stack here, and here's one of the books that we're going to talk about, Carol Dweck's book, very, very famous book on mindset. It's really about teaching people about a growth mindset, so they can become sort of lifelong learners, that kind of thing. And those kinds of things. So we don't want to be charismatics or entertainers. We're basically academics at heart, and we want to help students, to learn how to learn so they can take more control and self-direct, their path.
Yeah, I think that's great. And this whole concept, this was when I was running this with you and rehearsing it, this was the slide I was most drawn to because this is so honest in the sense that there really are these leadership gurus out there on the internet that are, really just trying to swindle you, that have, these sort of lofty goals or these lofty ideas and are buying into all the hype and all the excitement around the word leadership. And so I wanted to ask you, could you tell us some examples of like some tells of when you can tell somebody is one of these like sort of fake gurus?
Well, it's kind of like, I guess it's one of those things like I don't talk a lot about uh, when somebody introduced me, I will say, here's what I've done, here's what and that's all well and good. I have a portfolio, I have a, resume and everything. I think it comes across really quick when the emphasis is on the student. And what I try to do is set the students up to do something experiential, and then they take it over. And I know when I'm succeeding when my back starts, when I start to sort of, if I was in a classroom, when my shoulder blades were pressing against the blackboard, then I know I'm out of the picture. They no
Mm.
longer need me as the teacher. They're learning, and part of the goal for me is always to create that magical peer-to-peer where they're teaching each other. That is just a wonderful thing, but it typically takes some facilitation. Now, you don't see people doing that who are selling you a leadership book.
Mm.
And if you read these books, it'll talk about how great and how they saved the company and whatever. Uh, and they do all these wonderful things. So it's really a different kind of, part of it's a different mindset, and it's really about really being honest about the student-centered approach. And it takes some work. You got to sort of let yourself, like I said, become invisible. I know I'm succeeding when I'm kind of feeling the least bit, you know what I mean, where I'm not teaching. It's very weird, but that's the paradox of it. It's like, when learning is happening, there's this weird kind of tension, and the students are feeling it, and the teacher is stepping back. I always say, like, people have a difficult time calling a professor, by their name. So even the Harmony Plus, they won't call me,
Yeah.
Professor Matt.
It
I'll
just
say,
feels
well,
strange to us.
I know, but you understand that my job is to level the playing field of status.
Mm.
And when you're a member of my learning environment, you've earned the right to call me Matt, because now by the end of it, we're colleagues,
Mm.
right? And the whole idea is to sort of level that, and then we can move on. You can teach me things. Well, you can't anyway, but I'm just saying, it's like, that's a big part of it. I want my students to call me Matt by the time we're done with the session, because it's very important to me to not remain that sort of distant. That elevated position is just is it, that's part of the myth.
Mm.
I'm trying to debunk some of that stuff. Now, it's strange when it comes to leadership, because if you punch up leadership on Google, you'll get 2.5 billion hits, literally 2.8 billion. You
Mm.
punch up followership, you'll get about 2.5 million. So just think about that. Followership is not a romantic idea, but we're living in the age of followership, and followership is going to become more and more important. And there's some really good work being done on that by people like Barbara Kellerman at Harvard. She wrote a really amazing book. Here it is, right here. Barbara Kellerman's book on followership. She's a fantastic professor. she's written several amazing books on leadership.
Nice. All right, pretty cool. I wanted to ask you, with these leadership gurus, is it another thing that we're wondering is how much do we consider someone's education background when we talk about their ability to be a good leader? I feel like,
Yeah,
somebody's ability, somebody being very skilled in a given field
sure.
does not necessarily mean you're very good at teaching that skill to someone else.
Well, that's
So,
true. And the other thing is that, you don't learn leadership from books.
mhm,
I was fortunate enough to be at Outward Bound, and I learned leadership sort of in the field. And then I started my own company. And even before I graduated with a PhD, I had my own consulting practice. And it was very difficult. It's very difficult. And Bill can attest to this. It's a whole different ballgame when you're leading other people, when other people are employees of yours, and you're running a company, and you're trying to make a profit, and you're trying to be sustainable. It's a very difficult process. I really learned some great lessons when I was in Rwanda, when I was teaching, you know, business skills to, um, you know, women entrepreneurs who had their own businesses. But I was also, Goldman Sachs was very generous about giving me time to consult with. I visited every one of my businesses, every one of them, and did sort of on-site consulting. And it was just, that was probably the most instructive, leadership education for me, because I got to see and help them out with real problems in real time. And you know what was interesting? What was really fortunate for me, but it doesn't happen in college education, I would help them derive a solution and they would put it into practice immediately. So we were able to see, the effect of our decisions and our solution making immediately. And I can't tell you how valuable that education has been. So you don't learn leadership from books. You learn leadership by being a leader, doing things and making decisions, and leading people up the hill, kind of thing. And I want to help every student to try to generate some of that activity before they get into the business world and they become, indentured servitude, kind of an employee, and they check their freedom at the door. I want them to, experience what it means to sort of lead other people before they, enter into that sort of career, that careerism kind of environment.
Amazing. All right. Well, why don't we move on a little bit and talk more about how Harmony Plus's approach is going to be a little bit different than all these like leadership and leadership products that you might see among those 2.8 billion Google results.
I almost think, like, Bill, you could probably answer this better than me, but I've mentioned a few things already that, this program series is going to be sort of every, I think weekend night, maybe Sunday nights for 2 hours. And basically, what we're going to do is we're going to set them in motion. We're going to have about 5 or 6 different things for them to do to contribute to their portfolios. By the time they get through with this series, they will have about 18 to 20 contributions to their leadership portfolio. And that really is the outcome, is this website that's going to have all this work that they've done, and they can, take people to it, point out the things that they've done, and it's really going to be impressive. And they can use this from the time they put it together all the way through, and maybe add on to it even when they go to college. This is an amazing kind of opportunity for very young students to start putting together, their own kind of storybook, their own, you know, um, archive of different, work that they do, different contributions. So, the idea is to make it student centered, to not sell. We're not selling anything. We're not selling. What we're selling is the opportunity for them to, we're going to help them build this portfolio. That is the biggest payoff from this, worth every penny. you know, Whatever it costs to do this over, 6, 8 weeks, they're going to get back, I want to say, tenfold in probably the ensuing 3 or 4 years. no hero stories, no great leader, no great man leader. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a white male. I'm 64 years old. Yeah, I do have, some of my own biases and stuff. But I'm hoping to arrest and debunk a lot of that kind of thing. I worked really hard to try to not be sort of the stereotypical, college professor. They're basic lessons. Anybody can learn these kinds of things. There's no sort of entry barrier or criteria that they don't have to take a test to get into it. I've taken what I consider to be almost, an MBA level curriculum, and not so much. I'm not, sort of dialing it down so much as I am customizing it. I believe that these activities, anybody of any age can, get some benefit out of it. They're fun, and we have proven results. I mean, if anything, I have a record of proven results. Go to my LinkedIn, see what people talk about, and the kind of recommendations I've gotten. I've been so fortunate. I had 2 people call me yesterday, previous students who are interviewing right now, and it's just been amazing. I mean, sometimes it brings me to tears. But yeah, it's wonderful that my biggest gratifying, thing is to help other people succeed. And if I think about what leadership means to me, that's really what it's all about. The
Mhm.
more leaders I can produce and the more people I can help, find their own path. That's what I'm really engaged.
Fantastic. Yeah. And for people listening at home, when you hear that, I just want to reiterate that the website that he's speaking about that people add to is the HPLP, or Harmony Plus Leadership Portfolio. At the end of this, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Future Leader Academy, and we'll talk a little bit about HPLP as well. And by the way, I noticed someone submitted a Q&A question. We will,
Sure.
but I do want to let you guys know that that box is there for you to type throughout the workshop, or throughout the webinar rather, if you want to, if you have some questions and you want to, while it's fresh on your head, ask it.
Right.
So why don't you
Please
get
stay
going?
with us in case I lose the signal once again. Just
Mhm.
please, I will do my best to come back as quick as possible. And Bill will be standing by to kind of to help support us if that does happen. Here's a
Yeah.
little, I guess, sneak preview. So here's what it is in a nutshell. You have 5, sort of individual level workshops. How to thrive. We're going to concentrate on well-being and the lessons of positive psychology. I'll tell you in a nutshell, what does positive psychology mean? Psychology, when it first started out, it was kind of like, if you think of 1 to 10, okay? Psychology was about taking people at 1 or 2 and moving them to 6, okay? We want to take them from 5 or 6 and move them to 9. And that's what positive psychology does. It's the work of Martin Seligman and other people. We all start as followers. So we're going to talk about courageous following. What does it mean to challenge leadership in a sort of appropriate way? How do you become a courageous follower? It's a really important kind of skill set, and no other program has anything like this. Adaptive learning, we're going to teach students about their learning preferences, learning styles, and we're going to teach them how to learn how to learn. So I have a couple assessments that I'll do, really good stuff for them to learn what is called the adult learning cycle, the work of David Kolb and the people at Case Western University. Motives of self-change. We're going to talk about habits. We're going to talk about why leaders are focused and emphasize the concept of change. What does it mean? What does it mean to change yourself? So you got to become sort of self-aware in order to be able to change things. So we're going to talk about that. And then 5 is about what they call servant leadership. A man named Robert Greenleaf. Here's a book. You probably could see it. On becoming a servant leader. Oh, I think I got it flipped around maybe. See it there? Anyway, there was this very interesting man. And if there is a guru that I would trust, it would be Robert Greenleaf, because he was a really amazing man who worked for AT&T in this very strange capacity. And he started this whole movement about really leadership is all about serving. And we have service learning as one really amazing result from Robert Greenleaf's work. So anyway, we put all those 5 things together, and then we're gonna sort of cap it off. We call it what we call a capstone workshop, where they're gonna chart their own leadership journey. So it's about them building a portfolio around leadership development that they basically create. So this is the first uh, series of workshops in what we hope to be as many as 36. But we're going to take them from individual level development into teams, into organizations, and into sort of society as a whole. And that forms a pretty amazing curriculum for young people to engage in. So a lot of really great things to come. And this is just the beginning.
Why don't we wrap things up and then
Sure, conclusion.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that part of what I was talking about is maybe a few warning signals about leadership. Who am I to teach leadership, kind of thing. I hope I've convinced some of you that this is a really serious passion of mine, and it's not going to be sort of like business as usual. This is a very sort of customized, and unique program. There's a lot of good stories, and but I think the bottom line is that the students have the right, the opportunity, the privilege of crafting their own story, and we can really help them, give them a very, very strong kind of toolbox to help them develop. So I really encourage you to consider this program, and thanks very much for having me talk. This is the most I've talked in quite a while. And yeah, I'm open to questions as long as there's interest. I'll be open the floor to questions, William. After you
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
We will do questions at the end, but I do want to take some time to just talk a little bit more about the brass tacks, the specific details of the Future Leader Academy program, which Professor Matt will be teaching. This is open to all age groups, but we are looking around, high school as well as college age, even upper middle school. And the dates that we have now are the Sundays, beginning November 1st, so a week from tomorrow, from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time, ending December 6th. Those modules, as Matt mentioned, are listed below. You can also find those on our website. If you go to Harmony Plus /future-leader-academy, that URL will be at the end as well. And so some of the benefits that we want to talk about: learning opportunity with professor from one of the top B schools in America. That, of course, is Professor Matt we've been talking to. A certificate of completion. This is just the first of, as Matt mentioned, a planned 6 modules, a total of 36 lessons in total, and each one will have its own certificate of completion. So a certificate of completion for this module 1 that will be running November 1 to December 6th. The Harmony Plus leadership portfolio Matt alluded to earlier, I will talk to more in a second. And also the top 30% of participants will receive a recommendation letter from Professor Matthew. For people applying to colleges or even just job opportunities, this is a very, very useful resource to have as well. And leadership skills that are applicable in a variety of situations. Those of you who participated in our trial workshops for future leaders might remember that the scenario we gave you was actually about being on a ship stranded at sea. So don't think that just because of the background of the professor, as well as it being from MBA lessons, that it's all just going to be about you're at some high stakes merger and you have to understand the other party and all their assets and all that. It's never going to be just that, right? And so I want to talk a little bit more about HPLP, the Harmony Plus Leadership Portfolio. So this, for those of you who participated in Harmony Plus courses before, you might know a lot of times our assignments are operated and our homework is operated off of Google Suite, however you want to call it, Google Drive. This time around, we're going to be helping people instead using this website where they will build their own leadership portfolio, very customizable, have a bio for themselves. They'll be able to house the assignments that they do for Future Leader Academy there as well. There's spaces where they can list their current courses, those kinds of things. It sort of functions as both an area where they can fill in the assignments and things they do for future leaders, as well as almost like a functioning junior resume for them. Our consulting team and our future planning team will tell you for sure that this kind of portfolio, this kind of website and web presence is something more and more top schools are looking for in college applications. So this is such a useful tool and something that will give students like a real leg up in their college applications. And so that's something else that you get. And this lives on, of course, after Future Leaders is over. As Matt said, they have access to it forever and they can keep building on it long after they've left the program. This is kind of the first of its kind for Harmony Plus, and so we're really excited to get it off the ground. Just some final logistics things. The regular cost for this program is $17.99, but I did want to bring to your attention that we are running two specials that end by the end of the 25th, which is actually tomorrow. So we are running a special discount rate of the program for the time being for $13.99. And then you could also choose to pay the full price and get a 1-hour future planning consultation with our amazing senior education consultant, Ms. Kala, who is also one of the program facilitators along with me for Future Leader Academy. So regardless of this option or not, you'll be seeing quite a bit of her. She's definitely one of the masterminds behind Harmony Plus and especially behind Future Leader Academy. So if you're interested in the program, you can apply there at harmonyplus.com/future-leader academy. I will post that URL as well in the chat. But I think for the time being, it looks like we've got about right clean 5 minutes left. So I will turn it over for any questions that the group might have, any participants, panelists, attendees.
I actually got one before this webinar. A parent asked me, hey, you guys are getting star professors from top B schools, top-notch universities, delivering some MBA level programs. Can my kids, as high schoolers, understand? Yeah, professor.
Sure. That's a great question. And, I wrestle with this, but here's my presumption, I guess, is that I haven't seen too many things that are taught in an MBA level that couldn't be understood by a 6th or 7th grader if it was presented, a certain way. And I don't want to say it's dumbed down or anything. I think what you have to do is constantly, soundboard off your students. Are you getting this kind of thing? And once you develop a relationship with the students, and I think the online environment helps us to do this pretty well. If you can get them to trust you, say, and I ask a question, does anybody not get this? I want them to be courageous enough to say, I don't get it. And that's okay. And I will actually say that to them during the time. And, the facilitators in maybe breakout sessions will also try to do that. So, yeah, I don't really think it's so much, we're not going to deliver, highly technical, mathematical kinds of, or statistical kind of, technicalities here. This is all stuff that's sort of basic human nature kind of things. And if there's any real difficulty or complexity to it, it may be just in the research that supports some of the, the sort of, questions and answers, the antecedents and the consequences, So I won't use words like antecedent and consequence. I will use, sort of like problem and solution. So there's a way to communicate. I had a professor at Michigan. He used to say that, everything that we're learning is the challenge of an educator is to take what's simple, make it complicated, think about the complexity of it, but then try to really find the profoundly simple. So there's a progression there. You can stay in complicated, and you can go wander into complex, but eventually you want to try to kind of use Occam's razor to some extent, and cut to the chase and sort of dissect and find what the core idea is. And I think anybody who's a high school student if you're a smart school student, you're probably chomping at the bit to have something that's a little bit more engaging and a little bit more, that I think a lot of students would love to have that sort of collegiate level, engagement. And they'll be so happy they did it because they'll be so far ahead when they do go to college that, they'll be able to reduce their stress, that kind of thing. They will have been exposed, and things will have been illustrated to them. They may not get all of it, but just having that exposure is going to give them an incredible advantage.
All right, amazing. And I saw we had a question from Helen Wong, who asked us, do you have another session for this program? So I'll take that one. I mean, right now, this November 1 to December 6 is the one sort of our first iteration of it. But I think depending on enrollment and sort of the success and interest, we have had a lot of talks with Professor Matt and Harmony Plus about doing another session of it probably in the spring, early 2021. However, we don't have any set dates or anything to announce as of this time.
Well, the other possibility too would be is if we get enough enrollment, we can stagger the start dates and make it a little bit more of a, a little bit more of a sort of, a la carte menu. It won't have to be a rigid sort of hard stop, hard start, hard stop period. We can, there's some flexibility, but, that does depend on enrollment. And of course, Bill, probably could weigh in on that. We don't know how this is going to, how it's going to market. So we're going to, but we're going to adjust and adapt to our customers' needs.
Yeah, actually, the idea is similar to YMCA. Many people young people go to the gym, go to, for example, YMCA.
Sure.
You go there at any time you need, whichever part of your body need to be improved. I mean, the muscles should, yeah. So you want to work on, you can go there. This is the same thing. Leadership is not about. It's different from physics or chemistry. You miss some knowledge, then you cannot start at all. You can always start, and any day can be the day one, and anywhere can be the part you can start to work on. So this is a new innovation. We launched in such a leadership academy. So I think this is the gym to build up leadership for your kids. And yeah, I know. I also noticed some students are here in this webinar today. Yeah, any day can be day one. And to build up leadership, I should say better late than never. And of course, first movers always have the advantages. Yeah, early bird catch the worm. So we encourage people to start young.
So to give you an example, if you have these 5 workshops without the capstone, you could start anywhere. These are all sort of standalone. But by putting, say you start with like workshop 3, and then you come back and we'll make sure that 1 and 2 are available at a later date. And if by the time you complete all 5 of them, you'll be able to do the capstone that sort of completes the series. So, we're going to make it, we'll logistically make it available. So there'll be some, alternative dates and alternative ways to get through the series. I know that people are going to have, they're going to have different start dates, and maybe they have other obligations or conflicting schedules, and we'll work our way through those kinds of things.
All right, I see we are a little bit over the hour, so I'm going to wait just a few more moments for questions. I do want to thank everybody who stuck out with us this far. I also want to point out Bill, our CEO, our founder, who's been here on the conversation in the chat box, very generously offered private chat or call with him to learn more about this program or about Harmony Plus services in general. So you can find that information there as well. And so I'll wait just a little bit more for questions as we wind down. All right, I think that might be it for tonight. So I want to thank everybody for coming along. Professor Matt, thanks a lot. Looks like the internet did come through for the second half of that, which is great.
That's great.
And yeah, Bill or Professor Matt, any final words?
I appreciate your neighbors, Matt. I think they heard our voice. The society, this country need better leaders for the future. So I think some of them, they just stop surfing online, so they give you more, more voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we should appreciate, and I always appreciate all the attendees, and even somebody they cannot join the lively, so they will watch the video on Facebook. Yeah, go to Facebook, search Harmony Plus, and then you will find our previous recordings as well. Remember, like us, then you will never miss anything. If you have any questions, you're welcome to contact us. And our mission is to upgrade education. And we are always here to help you to empower your kids.
Indeed. That's great. And this message of that the world requiring better leadership, I mean, that's something hopefully Matt's neighbors heard that, but I hope the entire state of Michigan hears that in a few weeks, if you know what I'm saying. But I'm going to leave it at that. Why don't we sign off for the evening? Thanks everybody for attending. It's been
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right.
Thank you.
all right.